Okay, so the first thing that we want to do when we are solving a triangle like this is we want to label it. Okay, start always with the hypotenuse. Where's your hypotenuse? AB, right? It's the one across from the 90 degrees. So, okay. Then where's your opposite?
CB.
CB, right? It's the one across from the 74. So it's, I should say opposite. And then your adjacent is AC. All right. So the two sides that I'm interested in are opposite and adjacent, right? Because the opposite is the one that's given to me. The adjacent is the one I'm looking for. Okay? So which ratio do you use with the opposite and adjacent? Tan. So I have tan theta equals to the opposite over adjacent. I know my angle, so that's tan 74 equals, what's my opposite? 40 over, I don't know what the adjacent is. So in this case, because it's the one that I don't know is the denominator, it's a little bit different than what we did before. It's not multiply, right? So what happens here, what do I do? You can't bring in the 40 over, no, because 40 is on the top. Okay, so bring the 10 to this side. So it becomes division. How about the adjacent? So here's what happened. There's two steps to this, but you can make it into one step. And then what you need to do is just change the spots of the adjacent and the tan 40. Technically, there's two steps here. I'll show you the two steps and then I'll erase them. Okay? So the first step is you bring the adjacent here and becomes adjacent times tan 74 equals to 40, right? Then because I'm looking for the adjacent, you're going to bring the tan 74 down here and it becomes division. Okay, so these are my two steps. Okay, these are my two steps. But what I always tell my students, if you're looking for the denominator, just switch spots. So basically, this replaces tan 74. Tan 74 replaces the adjacent. Okay, so that's 40 divided by tan 74. Do you need to show me the middle step? No, you don't. Okay, you can skip right away from this step to the last step. Okay, on the calculator, if you do 40 divided by tan 74, what do you get?
11.5.
And then the unit? Centimeter. Therefore, adjacent, or side P, or whatever you want to call it, side B, okay? Are we okay with this? All right. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing, but in this case, if I'm given two sides, I'm looking for the angle. Okay? So it's a little bit different, but it's the same idea. Still labeling the triangle. I'm still trying to figure out what ratio do I need to use, and I'm still trying to solve for an unknown. So in this case, the question is going to ask you to solve for an angle. Okay? The only difference here is that to round angles to the nearest degree. So with the angle answer, I do not want you to leave any decimals. I want the angle to the nearest degree. Okay? So if it's, let's say, 37.2, you leave it at 37 degrees. Okay? Here's the example. Now, something that you need to remember is that whenever you're looking for an angle, you're going to have to use the inverse button. So on your calculator, check for me, where do you see the sine to the power of -1 or cosine to the power of -1?
It's the same thing, isn't it?
No, if you're looking at sine, yeah. It's on the same button. Yeah, it's the same button, but it's in the yellow. That's right. So you have to press the shift button or the second button to get to it. Okay? So you should have a shift button. Yep. Yep. So when you do shift and then this. So let's say if you have 74, sorry, no, should be 0.256, let's say, and then do shift sine, that will give you the angle. Okay? So you have to press either the shift or the inverse button. Okay? Or the second. There's different calculators have different options. Okay? All right. So here's an example. Angle C is my right angle. So it's asking you to find the measure of angle B. Okay? So I'm looking for this angle, knowing that these sides are 13 and 8. So my angle of it is B, because that's the one I'm looking for. Remember, angle of interest is either the one that you're given or the one you're looking for. So according to angle B, where's my hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent? AC is the opposite. BC is the adjacent. This is the hypotenuse because it's the one across from the right angle. All right? So what am I given? The adjacent and the opposite. So if I'm given the adjacent and the opposite, which trig ratios do I use? TOA. Okay? Because I'm given the opposite and the adjacent. Okay? So let's set it up. Tan theta equals to the opposite over the adjacent. I'm looking for angle B, so I'm going to write tan B equals, what's my opposite? 8 over 13. Now, I am looking for the angle B. Anytime I'm looking for the angle, I'm going to have to do the inverse, okay? So, I'm looking for angle B. This is what I write. Eyes on me for a second. So, angle B is equal to tan inverse. So, you write that inverse, -1, bracket 8 over 13, close bracket. So, on your calculator, you're going to have to do that exact same thing. You're going to do the second or the shift or whatever button that you have. Press the tan, open bracket, 8 divided by 13. If your calculator is backward, then you have to do 8 divided by 13 first. 8 divided by 13 equals. Okay, then you do shift tan. And this is your angle. Okay? 31 point what? So what is that? What's the angle then? 32. Because your answer is 31.6, you're going to have to round up. Okay? So that's going to be 32 degrees. Please try this on the calculator. Make sure that you understand how to put it in the calculator. So anytime I'm looking for an angle, I have to do the inverse. whenever you're looking for an angle, you have to do the shift sign or shift tan. Whenever you're looking for the side, then you do sine whatever. If the angle is given to you, you just do the regular one, right? Are we okay with this so far? All right. So this question is asking you to find the measure of angle R and angle T. So it's asking you for both angles, okay? Doesn't matter which one you start with?
No.
No. So let's start with angle R. So my angle of interest is angle R. First thing I have to do is I have to label my triangle. Hypotenuse is? Opposite is? And adjacent is? The two sides that I know are adjacent and hypotenuse. So which ratio do I use? Cosine. Okay, because cosine is the one that has the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And then I'm going to say cosine angle R is equal to 7 over 15. So what do I do? What do I write though? So I write R equals cos inverse bracket 7 over 15. And the answer is 62 degrees. No, it's 62 because there's a 1 here. Right? Okay. Now I know angle R. How can I find angle T?
Just add S and R and down from 180.
Because I know the three angles equal to 180, right? I know two of them. I know 90 and I know 62. So you can use one of the ratios again and solve, but then why would you bother? Okay? So the third angle T, so this represents angle T is 180 minus 90 minus 62. So what's your answer for this? This should be 28. So I found both angles. I'm done. Anytime the question asks you to solve for the triangle, in this case it didn't, but if I ask you to solve for the triangle, that means you're solving for everything, for all the sides and all the angles. Everything that's missing, you have to solve for. Okay? So be careful. Any questions about this so far?
So the last thing you said was that if the question asks to solve for what?
Solve the triangle. So that means you have to solve for all the sides and the angles. Okay? So that means if this question asks you to solve for the triangle, that means you still have to solve for the opposite. You'll have one more information that you have to solve for.
As the opposite side.
Yeah. Okay. The last thing we're going to talk about is the angle of elevation and angle of depression. It's important to know what they mean because in word problems, you're going to see a lot of this angle of elevation, angle of depression, and you need to know how to locate these angles. So the angle of elevation and angle of depression, they're special angles because they are measured from the horizontal. Okay? It could be an imaginary horizontal, but you have to draw a horizontal line and you have to measure from that. So let's say I'm standing here and I'm looking at the clock, right? If I'm looking at the clock, I have an angle of elevation of, let's say, 30 degrees from my eye of sight to the clock, okay? What happened here, you're going to have to draw a horizontal line coming out of the eye of my sight, and then a line going from the same point all the way up to the clock. So that would be the angle of elevation. So this is the object, the clock. And this is the imaginary horizontal line that's coming out of my eye of sight. This is called the angle of elevation. Okay? It's measured from a horizontal line. The angle of depression is the same idea, but it's going down. So if I'm looking at an object on the ground, right, it's a line that's going down from the horizontal, so that would give you the angle of depression. Okay? So let's see what that means in a word problem. So from the top of a bridge, Maria looks down at a sailboat at an angle of depression of 15 degrees. The bridge is 18 meters above the water. Calculate the horizontal distance from the bridge to the sailboat. Let's reread the question. So from the top of a bridge, Maria looks down at a sailboat at an angle of depression of 15 degrees. The bridge is 18 meters above the water. Calculate the horizontal distance from the bridge to the sailboat. So where's Maria? So Maria is on the bridge, so she's standing. Okay? And then what does she see? A boat somewhere, right? In the water. So we know that the bridge is kind of vertical to the ground or to the whatever. So, does that make sense so far to you? So she's standing on the bridge and the bridge is 18 meters above the water. So where does this 18 meter go? That one here, the vertical line? Right, because Maria is standing right here on the bridge. Okay? And then I'm calculating the horizontal distance from the bridge to the sailboat. Horizontal distance means something that's horizontal, something that's flat, right? Not this. It's a horizontal distance. So that means I'm looking for this side. Now, I'm missing one information here. So Maria looks down at a sailboat at an angle of depression of 15 degrees. So where is that angle of depression of 15 degrees? Right here? Right here? Outside the triangle? How can I draw that?
You draw your horizontal line straight. Yes. And the angle is up.
This is the 15 degrees. Because remember, an angle of depression has to be drawn from a horizontal line coming out of her eye of sight. Okay? So if this is 15 degrees, what does this leave me with?
75.
And why is this 75? Because this right here, a horizontal and a vertical, forms a 90 degree. If this is 15, then this leaves me with 75. Okay? So if you look at my triangle now, I know this is 18, and I know this is 75. I'm looking for this. Do you understand this?
Yes.
That's 75. And that's 90 minus 15. So according to my angle of interest, where's my opposite, where's my adjacent, where's my hypotenuse? So that's your hypotenuse, yeah? Opposite is the base. And the adjacent is? Okay, so the two sides that I'm interested in are opposite and adjacent, so I have to use tan. Leslie, turn it down. So I'm replacing the theta, or the angle, with 75 degrees. So tan of 75 equals to the opposite over 18. And then all what I have to do here is take it to the other side and make it into multiplication. And can you give me the answer? 67.2. Each therefore statement is worth half a mark. You don't write it, you lose it. Yes. Okay? Especially when we're talking about word problems like this, I need a therefore statement. It's part of your marks. Okay? So therefore, the horizontal distance from the bridge to the sailboat is 67.2 meters.